Happy Veterans Day, everybody, and welcome to the Barbaros Rocnel adjustable razor review.
Shave it up!
Everybody, Clean Shaver here, and this has been a highly anticipated video, I think, from just about everybody that's been following my Instagram feed and Twitter and Facebook, and I've had a lot of questions about this. And so finally, it's time. This is the Barbaros, gotta flip it the right way, the Barbaros Rocnel B&R adjustable razor. Okay, double-edged blade, and I have a lot to talk about this in this video, so I apologize if it's a bit long, but hopefully all this review will be beneficial for you. So let's get into it. This shaving tool is made from 316 grade German stainless steel, and it is, like the name implies, it is an adjustable razor. It uses a double-edged blade. It's quite the piece. There's a lot of production that goes into making one of these. I was asking Hassan, who's the Barbaros side of the team. Murat is the Rocnel side, and I was talking to Hassan and asking him some questions about the process and how this is all made. So, like I said, 316 German stainless steel, and the machining alone for the head, and we'll get into the design of the head here in just a little bit. The machining alone for each head takes 12 hours. 12 hours of machining time. That's a lot of time for one. That's how long it takes for it to go from one chunk to a finished head. Well, not even a finished head, just a machined head. That's a lot of time, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. Murat was the guy who runs the machining portion of it, and he works with a couple other guys in the shop. Together they all have like 15 years experience in the machine shop, and so, you know, very expertly made. Pretty cool design, actually. But let's get into design. Let's talk about that. So overall, I decided to give the design of this razor an 8. Okay, and while I'm talking about this and I'm showing you a little bit about it, I'm going to scoot myself over here, and you'll be able to watch me shave with it, and maybe I'll play a little bit of a clip that will show you the sound of the razor. Some people might be interested in that while I'm shaving with it. So design, I decided to give this an 8 for design, and I'll tell you why. So as far as the design is concerned, the appearance of it is concerned, it's a bit simple. I mean, it's nothing earth-shattering, like, you know, it doesn't scream of uniqueness at first glance. You know, it's not like a Hone Type 15 where it's brass and it's brazen, and it's, you know, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you wouldn't know what you were looking at, if that makes sense. If you were looking through a row of a bunch of razors, this one didn't necessarily stick out on its own, apart as far as its shape and appearance, surface appearance is concerned. When you go deeper, it's a bit different. So I knocked it down a few pegs because I felt like it's not a super ingenious design as far as the appearance is concerned, the aesthetics. But it is very shiny, very, very well polished, and its function, the design is rather clever, actually, and I feel like I know they put a lot of work into this, and it's interesting because it's simple enough. They really didn't overcomplicate it, which is remarkable for me. You know, you look at a Fat Boy, for instance, a Gillette Fat Boy adjustable, and the moving plate and all the TTO action there, it's rather complicated, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I could really mess up a Fat Boy. This, I don't feel like that's going to happen, and so that's noteworthy for me. That earns back a little bit of those points. And the polish, obviously, it takes a long time to polish this. In fact, it's 6 hours of polishing per head. That's at least according to Hassan. Start out with 240 grit, then 320 grit, then 600 grit, and then 1200 grit, and then 2000 grit, and then they go into the buffing and polishing. So there's a lot of process that goes into this. The laser etching and the actual handle, according to Hassan, are made by a third party, but that doesn't really matter to me. You know, a handle's a handle. But the actual head design really is what makes the biggest difference. And so I gave it an 8 because I feel like, yes, it's strong and it's pretty when you actually get to it. I mean, look at the back side of that head there. It's very well polished and very clean, very pretty looking. And the adjustment mechanism is rather clever. I just had to knock it down a little bit because there is that element of plainness to it. And so I did knock it down a little bit. So an 8 for design. Now, efficiency. This, I had to give it a 10. It can go as aggressive or non-aggressive as you want. I mean, dialed down all the way to 1 where it's completely down to nothing. It really doesn't pick up much. It's very, very mild. Only when I had a really, really sharp blade in there did I really get much with it on a 1. I usually had to dial it up to about a 3 or so before I really felt like it was getting something. That being said, it can actually adjust, so not only to an 8, so we start at 1, I don't know how well you can see that. Start at 1, and you can dial up to an 8, right? And the gap goes up considerably. But guess what else you can do? You can go up double that if you really wanted to. And it still holds, because of the head design, it still fits in there, and it still holds the blade. So it can be as efficient or as aggressive as you dang well want it, which is saying something. And actually, I tried that on my second shave with this. I dialed it all the way up as far as I dared go with it, and it was super efficient without being too aggressive, actually, which was remarkable, despite it being jacked all the way up and a huge blade gap on there. I mean, that is scary almost. It still held the blade very rigid and offered a very, very close, very efficient shave, and it wasn't too uncomfortable, which was very surprising. And so, with that in mind, I did dial it down when I was doing my head. I just did it on my face and my neck, but I was able to do 3 passes with it on that highest setting, and no problem. It was a very close shave, and I don't think I really needed to shave the next day because it was that close. But it was very, very effective, very efficient. Let's move down here for a second, and I'll show you close up some intricacies with the head that I experienced, and show you a little bit about how to adjust it to make sure that it works correctly for you. Because I made that mistake. I took it right out of the box and shaved with it without checking with Hassan if it was set up correctly. I just went for it, and I had a bit of a bad experience with it my first shave. I fixed it for the second one, but let's take a look at it. So I'm sorry the lighting in this position is not great, but I'll give you a little bit of a close-up here. I apologize, I'm working from my viewfinder on the camera. So we have the B&R, you can see that right there. Now how this attaches, it is actually a 3-piece razor, so we unscrew the handle just like any other 3-piece. It is unique in that regard as an adjustable, but the handle comes off. Generally with an adjustable you see a mechanism in the base plate where there's a screw piece in the bottom that it just all stays put together, but this actually does come apart. So we have the base plate that comes apart, and you can see in the groove there, so there's the moving portion, and if you look really closely in there you can see a spring, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So I have the blade out, let's take that out. Okay, so very shiny, very nice, very nicely put together. Let's take a look at the base plate though, because this is really the meat of the razor. Okay, so you can see the laser etching there, very nice. And this is how it all works together. Now, I mentioned that now when I did my first shave, I actually took it right out of the box and I used it without really taking a look at it. That was a mistake because it wasn't adjusted properly. Now, I showed a picture of it to Hassan afterward, and he said, dude, you got to fix this because it's not going to work properly.
And so what I'm talking about here is you can see in the center post area, the center hole, there is a little bit of a threaded thing that comes up. It's risen just a little bit, okay? And that is actually how this comes together. So there's a screw in the bottom here. And if you take a screwdriver, you can turn it righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so it'll loosen it a little bit. And you see that that bottom portion recedes a little bit, okay? And it should actually be sitting below this screw portion in the middle should be sitting below, or should be seated below the actual plate. Now, looking at it a little more closely, you can see the spring in there, and that's actually how it should be adjusted. When I had it sticking up, it actually made it so that the blade wobbled just a little bit. It wasn't as steady as it could be. Once I fixed that, it was no problem whatsoever. But nice thing about this, I have had a question from somebody asking if I thought that it could get gunked up and become a problem. And that's probably possible. I mean, if you went for a long time without cleaning it, yeah, that would probably happen. But you do also have, oh, I need to clean the bottom of that. It's a little dirty. But you can take it apart and do that. Now, it is a little bit of a pain to put back together, so you wouldn't want to do it too often. But, you know, if you take it and you actually clean it out like it should be, then, you know, it will last longer and you won't get so much buildup. But that is how that all comes together. And then to put it back together, simply squeeze it, make sure that it's lined up correctly, and then put it back in. And just like that, it's back together. Okay, so there's that. Now, when you put it all back together, yep, and you see that it's seated just below where it should be. And so when I put it all back together, then I found that the best way to make sure that it gets all the way down is to actually load the blade onto the top cap, put the base plate on top of it, and then press down slightly, or press all the way down with the blade in it. Here, let's do it with the blade. Press down with the blade in it so that the blade is adjusted correctly and you can get all the way down without cranking without torquing it, really. Torquing the threads that are inside there and making the little mechanism, that adjustment mechanism that adjusts the plate up and down without making it turn and come out of alignment. So anyway, that's a bit of a look at it up close.
Okay, so now that you kind of see what I'm talking about with the design and the make of the razor, let's move on to price. Now, price on this, I gave it an 8. And I wanted to go lower than that because this razor is going to be expensive. They are planning on at least the base. In my conversations with Hassan, he said the lowest we might see it go is $250. That's a lot of money for a razor. I would expect it to be closer to the $300 mark. But here's the thing. While that is a lot of money to pay for a razor, there is also a lot of time that goes into this and a lot of effort that goes into it. I mean, we're talking about 12 hours of machining time, 6 hours of polishing time just for the head. That is a lot of time. And so, I mean, if you look at it, so say $300 and 18 hours worth of work that goes into this, that's $16, $17 an hour, which, you know, a lot of people would be fairly happy with that, but that's, for the time that goes into this, that's not that much. And so I can understand it. I feel like this is kind of like a Mercedes versus a Mazda kind of a thing. Yes, I drive a Mazda. I will admit that. And it gets me from A to B. It's not pretty, it's not fancy, but it works. That's like a Merkur 34C or something like that. It's inexpensive, utilitarian, but it works and it's effective. A Mercedes-Benz, that's a different animal. It's a lot more attention to detail. It's a lot more work that goes into that car. And so they build value by putting more into it. I kind of feel like that's how this razor is. And we probably need to address who will actually be wanting this razor. And probably, I mean, guys that already have the money and are just looking for something, you know, they're looking for a Benz, they're looking for a Mercedes, not a Mazda. And those are the kind of guys that they value the time and the attention to detail that goes into it. That's going to be important to them. People that don't, then they won't be interested in this. They might ogle over it like I ogle over a Mercedes, but realize that, you know what, I'll probably never buy a Mercedes, I'm saying, because it's just more than I need. So price is a very subjective thing. For some people, $300 is not going to be a big deal. For a lot of other people, it is a really big deal. So I knocked it down a little bit, but I brought it back up because I see the value in it. I see the value that goes into the time that's spent on it. So I gave it an 8. Now this will be available exclusively with Bull Goose and Your Shaving. So those are the 2 options for you as far as vendors are concerned. That's where you can get it. Will be available soon. The first release will be 100 razors, and including stands, I believe. So that will be available immediately when they release it, and they'll continue to make more as there's demand. But understand that there's a lot of lead time that goes into making one of these. So if you aren't one of the first 100, then you might be waiting a little bit to get another one. Okay, now cool factor. Cool factor, I struggled with this one as well. I gave it an 8. I feel like it is very pretty. It's sleek, it's very polished, it's a good looking razor when you actually take the time to examine the attention to the detail. It is a very cool looking razor. It is also a very elite razor because of the price, because of the attention that goes into it. It has that element of eliteness to it, and exclusivity to it, much like you would see with a Wolfman or a BBS1 or the Above the Ties, those kinds of razors that are very high end. There's a lot to be said for that. At the same time, the design of the razor, it's very unassuming. It's not so eye-catching that it's like, whoa, dude, what is that? It can come off just a little bit plain if you're not positioning it correctly in your shave of the day pictures, for instance. Another element there is, would I save up to buy this razor? And at that price point, I'm afraid I have to say probably not. Me personally, just because I don't have that much disposable income, and B, because I know that there's that diminishing return. The more you spend on a razor, it doesn't go up exponentially. It does start to peak, right? And so you have to want it for its looks. You have to want it for its eliteness, its exclusivity. So I do feel like it waned a little bit there for me. It's cool and it works, but I don't feel like I feel like it's just missing a little bit to get that full 10. So I put it at an 8. So that brings us to a total of 34 out of 40, which puts it at an 85%, which is a B, which is not bad. So it's a good razor. It performs very well. It's very efficient. It works very well. It's just, I think, for me, I think it's just lacking that certain something that makes it the unobtainium kind of status. That makes it so it's oh my gosh, I'll do whatever I can to get that thing. It is missing that element for me, unfortunately. I really wanted to see it and think, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing and I've got to have it. And unfortunately, it fell just a little bit short for me. But I'm not saying that it will fall short for everybody. Somebody else may try it and love it and just think it's the best thing ever, and I hope you do. But for me personally, it just fell a little bit short. And so it is good, but I do have a couple of recommendations before I wrap up here. The blades that I tried using in this razor, I used a Persona Lab Blue. I tried a Polsilver Super Iridium. I also tried Polsilver stainless blades. I tried a Feather high stainless, and I tried a Voskhod. The Feather did not work well for me. It tore my face up. Generally though, I don't have good luck with feathers. I tried it just because I like to be thorough in my reviews. And so it really tore me up, but if feathers work well for you, then go for it. My recommendations though would be the Pulsars, the Personas, the Voskhod. You could probably also do very well with an Astra in there, or a Kai, or a Bolzano, or something like that. I didn't try those blades in this razor particularly, but and if you notice in the video, I also used a soap that was I'll be reviewing next week, which is made by Archaic Alchemy. It's a company out of Mexico, and really pretty interesting stuff. So watch for that next week. Anyway, that's my video for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, and find me on my social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+, Voicebyte, Snapchat, Kick, a bunch of others. They're all there. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below, and I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully you'll consider buying the Barbaros and Rocnel B&R adjustable. It is a very pretty razor and works well. Hopefully you'll take a look at it. So thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, be smooth, and shave it up. We'll see you next time.